Empires. The word evokes images of power, wealth, and vast dominion. History is replete with examples: Rome, Han China, the Mongols, and the British Empire. These sprawling entities at their zenith commanded vast resources and manpower. They orchestrated impressive feats of engineering, fostered flourishing trade networks, and left indelible marks on art, culture, and governance. The initial rise of an empire is often fueled by a potent mix of military prowess, economic innovation, and a unifying ideology. This potent combination allows them to subdue rivals, secure resources, and project power over vast distances. The promise of stability, prosperity, and security under a strong central authority proves an alluring prospect for many. Early on, empires often experience a golden age, a period of peace and prosperity where arts and sciences flourish. This period of success reinforces the empire's legitimacy, attracting talent and resources, further fueling its expansion and influence. This success, however, often sows the seeds of its own downfall. As empires grow, their borders expand, encompassing diverse cultures and peoples. Managing this diversity becomes increasingly complex and often leads to reliance on increasingly centralized and often autocratic rule. This can stifle innovation and create resentment among the governed. The very factors that contribute to an empire's rise, ambition, military might, and the pursuit of wealth, can over time become liabilities, breeding internal strife and external conflict. History teaches us that empires are not brought down by external forces alone. More often than not, the seeds of their destruction are sown from within. As empires mature, complacency can set in. The same hunger for innovation and efficiency that characterized their rise gives way to inertia and a sense of entitlement. The ruling elite, often insulated from the realities faced by the common people, may lose touch with the needs and concerns of the populace. This disconnect can lead to policies that exacerbate existing inequalities and create resentment among the governed. Corruption, an insidious disease that festers in the heart of any powerful entity, often takes root. Patronage networks flourish, siphoning resources away from vital public works and services. The once efficient bureaucracy becomes bloated and inefficient, more concerned with self-preservation than serving the needs of the people. This internal decay weakens the empire from within, making it vulnerable to a host of internal and external threats. Social unrest, fueled by economic inequality and political disenfranchisement, becomes increasingly common. The empire's initial promise of unity and prosperity rings hollow for a growing segment of the population. As the gap between the haves and have-nots widens, social tensions escalate, often manifesting as protests, riots, and even full-blown rebellions. This internal strife further drains the empire's resources, diverting attention and manpower away from external threats. While internal decay weakens an empire from the inside out, external pressures often deliver the final blow. As empires grow complacent, their neighbors often observe, learn, and adapt. Rival empires, sensing weakness, may launch opportunistic attacks, seeking to expand their territory and influence. Nomadic tribes driven by environmental pressures or the lure of plunder can pose a significant threat, as was the case with the Huns and the Roman Empire. The very act of maintaining a vast empire with its far-flung borders and constant need for defense places an immense strain on its resources. As internal pressures mount, empires often find it increasingly difficult to maintain the legions necessary to secure their borders and project power. This overextension creates vulnerabilities that savvy enemies can exploit, leading to costly and often unsuccessful wars of attrition. Furthermore, empires often become entangled in protracted conflicts with rivals, draining their manpower and treasury. These wars, often initiated to maintain a fading aura of invincibility, can backfire, exposing the empire's vulnerabilities and inspiring further rebellion within its ranks. The once feared legions, stretched thin and demoralized, become a shadow of their former selves, unable to hold back the tide of external threats. Few empires illustrate the perils of overexpansion and internal decay better than Rome. At its zenith, the Roman Empire encompassed vast swaths of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Its legions were renowned for their discipline and effectiveness, its infrastructure was unparalleled, and its legal system formed the basis for Western law. Yet beneath this glittering facade, cracks were already beginning to show. The reign of Marcus Aurelius, from 161 to 180 AD, is often seen as the beginning of the end for Rome. A series of weak and often corrupt emperors followed, more concerned with personal enrichment than the welfare of the empire. The once mighty legions, increasingly filled with mercenaries and conscripts lacking the discipline and loyalty of their predecessors, proved less effective in quelling internal unrest and repelling external threats. Economic woes, exacerbated by excessive military spending, rampant inflation, and a widening gap between the rich and poor, further weakened the empire. As the situation deteriorated, people lost faith in the once venerated institutions of Roman governance. The final centuries of the Western Roman Empire were marked by constant warfare, economic instability, and political upheaval. In 476 AD, the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by a barbarian general, marking the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire. The fall of Rome serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most powerful empires are not immune to the corrosive effects of internal decay and external pressure. The cyclical rise and fall of empires is not unique to the West. In China, a similar pattern played out over millennia, with successive dynasties rising to prominence, enjoying a period of peace and prosperity, only to eventually succumb to the same internal and external pressures that doomed Rome. The Han Dynasty, from 206 BC to 220 AD, often considered a golden age in Chinese history, provides a compelling example. Like Rome, the Han emperors presided over a period of unprecedented economic growth, territorial expansion, and cultural flourishing. They established a centralized bureaucracy, built extensive infrastructure, and fostered trade along the Silk Road. However, as the Han Dynasty matured, it too began to exhibit the classic symptoms of imperial decline. Land concentration in the hands of a wealthy elite led to widespread inequality and social unrest. Corruption within the bureaucracy became endemic, and a series of weak emperors proved unable to address the mounting challenges. External pressure from nomadic tribes along China's northern border added to the empire's woes. By the early 3rd century AD, the Han Dynasty had fragmented into competing kingdoms, marking the beginning of a prolonged period of disunity and conflict. Section 6. Recurring patterns of decline, lessons from history. The rise and fall of empires, though separated by time and geography, exhibit striking similarities. Historians and social scientists have identified several recurring patterns that contribute to imperial decline. One key factor is imperial overstretch, a term coined by historian Paul Kennedy. As empires expand, the costs of maintaining their vast territories and complex administrative structures often outstrip their resources. This overextension creates vulnerabilities that rivals and internal challengers can exploit. Another common thread is the breakdown of central authority. As empires grow, they often struggle to maintain unity and cohesion across their diverse populations. Regionalism, ethnic tensions, and religious conflicts can weaken the bonds that hold the empire together. This fragmentation creates opportunities for ambitious individuals or groups to challenge the central government, leading to instability and often civil war. Economic decline also plays a significant role in the fall of empires. Rampant inflation, caused by excessive military spending, debasing the currency, or a decline in trade, can cripple an empire's economy. This economic hardship often leads to social unrest, as people lose faith in the government's ability to provide for their basic needs. Section 7. Modern Insights, Acemoglu, Dalio, and the Nature of Power. Contemporary thinkers have built upon these historical lessons, offering valuable insights into the cyclical nature of power. Economist Daron Acemoglu, in his book Why Nations Fail, argues that inclusive political and economic institutions are essential for long-term prosperity and stability. When power is concentrated in the hands of a small elite, it creates incentives for corruption, rent-seeking, and the suppression of innovation. This ultimately leads to economic stagnation and social unrest, creating fertile ground for revolution or external conquest. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates and a keen student of history, echoes these sentiments in his book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. Dalio argues that empires rise and fall in predictable cycles, driven by a combination of internal and external factors. He identifies 8 key determinants of an empire's strength: education, competitiveness, innovation, technology, economic output, military strength, trade, and reserve currency status. When these determinants weaken, so too does the empire, paving the way for its eventual decline. Both Acemoglu and Dalio emphasize the importance of adaptability and resilience in navigating the challenges of a changing world order. Empires that fail to adapt to new realities, whether economic, technological, or geopolitical, are doomed to decline. Conversely, those that embrace change, foster innovation, and maintain inclusive institutions have a better chance of surviving and even thriving in the face of adversity. Section 8. The Seeds of Renewal, from the Ashes of Empires. The fall of an empire, while often a tumultuous and painful process, is not necessarily the end of the story. History is replete with examples of societies that rose from the ashes of their predecessors, incorporating valuable lessons learned and forging new paths. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire, for example, paved the way for the emergence of new kingdoms and cultures in Europe. These successor states, while initially fragmented and often at odds with one another, eventually gave rise to the vibrant tapestry of cultures, languages, and political systems that characterize modern Europe. In China, the fall of one dynasty was often followed by a period of disunity and conflict known as an interregnum. These periods, though turbulent, also served as crucibles for innovation and change. New ideas, technologies, and political systems emerged, often laying the groundwork for the next great dynasty. The rise of the Sui dynasty, which reunited China after centuries of division, was made possible by innovations in governance, military organization, and infrastructure that emerged during the preceding Southern and Northern dynasties period. The fall of an empire, while marking the end of an era, also creates space for new beginnings. It allows for the emergence of fresh perspectives, the challenging of old assumptions, and the birth of new ideas. The lessons learned from the successes and failures of past empires can serve as valuable guideposts for future generations, reminding us of the importance of adaptability, resilience, and the need to constantly strive for a more just and equitable society. Section 9. Parallels in the Present, Warnings for Modern Societies. While the empires of old may seem distant and irrelevant to our modern world, the lessons they offer remain strikingly relevant. Many of the challenges that confronted ancient civilizations, climate change, resource depletion, economic inequality, political polarization, and technological disruption, are eerily similar to those we face today. The rise of globalization, while fostering unprecedented interconnectedness and economic growth, has also created new vulnerabilities and exacerbated existing inequalities. The concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a select few, a trend observed in many parts of the world, echoes the conditions that contributed to the downfall of past empires. Similarly, the rise of nationalism, populism, and political polarization in many Western democracies is reminiscent of the internal divisions that plagued Rome and other empires in their twilight years. The rapid pace of technological change, while offering tremendous opportunities for progress, also presents significant challenges. Artificial intelligence, automation, and other disruptive technologies have the potential to exacerbate existing inequalities and create new ones, leading to social unrest and political instability. The lessons of history teach us that failure to address these challenges head-on could have dire consequences for the long-term health and stability of our societies.